All right, this is a continuation of the chemical and physical properties and chemical and physical changes notes. So picking up at chemical and physical changes. So now if something is undergoing a change, we have these two categories. So a physical change is where the matter changes form, but not chemical identity. And that's the definition. So if we were writing a CER, we would want to reference that definition. Physical changes are often reversible, so you could get back to the original substance. So examples would be water boiling or dissolving. Dissolving is actually pretty complicated, so we don't see that one as an example very often, but that is a physical change because we could evaporate out the water in order to get the salt back. Chemical changes now are where a reaction is actually occurring and so new products are formed. And often these are irreversible, so you cannot go back to the original substance. So something like the ripening of a banana or rusting, those are where new things are forming. And the nice thing is that we have 5 signs that a chemical change has taken place. And so we look at those signs in order to help determine if a chemical or physical change has taken place. So the 5 signs of a chemical change: color change, formation of a precipitate. A precipitate is a solid that gets formed from 2 solutions. So basically if you combine 2 things that look like liquids, and then you get a solid. Thermal energy transfer, or a change in temperature, and you can just say change in temperature, that's fine, but what's happening is there is thermal energy being transferred into or out of the system, and that would be without like a stove or whatever. There's just a temperature change when you combine things together. The formation of a gas is a sign of a chemical change because we often aren't starting with a gas. So when we see a gas that is being produced, that is a new chemical. And so we can, since a lot of times gases are clear, we can look for bubbles to see if a gas is forming. And then the last sign is EMR, energy transfer, and that is electromagnetic radiation energy transfer, which is our visible light waves being transferred. So if we see light being produced when those 2 things are combined, that is also the sign of a chemical change. So if we can find and make observations indicating these, then we can determine if a chemical change has taken place. All right, so determine if the observation describes a chemical or physical change. A car starts to rust. And again, feel free to pause and then you can come back to this, or you can just go through these. So a car starts to rust. That would be a chemical change because we would observe a color change happening, and that rust has a new chemical makeup. Sugar dissolving in coffee. Dissolving is going to be a physical change. We are going to think of that as that we could evaporate out that coffee and the sugar would be left. Sugar being melted on the stove into caramel. So even though melting and having a phase change would be physical, if you have white sugar and then it changes into a brown caramel, that's going to be a color change. Often you also start to see bubbles. So we'll see a color change and those things will also start to bubble. So this would be a chemical change because you can never go back to just having regular sugar again. Paper getting shredded. Paper getting shredded is going to be a physical change. It's just breaking the paper into smaller pieces. You're not actually changing the makeup of the paper though. And last, baking a cake. This would also be a chemical change. We would see that there's a color change as it starts to brown in the oven. We can also, the cake is going to rise and form bubbles, which means that there's a gas being produced in that chemical composition of the ingredients. With that, because the oven is providing heat, it's not a temperature change that we would observe. This one, the temperature change is coming from the oven, so that's not a sign of a chemical change there. It's just speeding up the process. All right, so we've got a couple of CERs here. So arguing whether breaking of glass is a chemical or a physical change. Feel free to pause the video and then come back and hear what I have written. All right, so as I look at this, I'm again considering, is this physically changing or is it chemically changing? And I'm going to make a claim that the breaking of glass is a physical change. And so my evidence, I'm going to do before and after observations. So before, the glass is in one piece. After, I'm saying the glass is in many pieces. If we wanted, we could count up how many pieces are in the picture I gave us. And so my reasoning, why is that physical? So this is a physical change. Because the glass is not changing chemical composition. Chem is chemical. Rather, it's changing form. Or shape. And remember that shape is a physical property. Like that. All right, let's do one more together. So with this one here, if you want, you can look up what is solid copper when it is placed with silver nitrate. And so with this one, again, we're going to go through and write a CER based on this interaction. I gave us before and after pictures down here, so we can do that as well. And so as I'm looking at it, I want to look at, okay, before. And when we're looking at these, we want to make good observations. I have copper and I have silver nitrate. So before, and that copper is the solid. So the copper wire, copper is a solid wire with an orangish color. And then my silver nitrate, and up here this says a solution of silver nitrate, which means we have silver nitrate that's dissolved in water. So we can just say our silver nitrate solution I'm going to say it is a clear solution, or you could say clear liquid. That's not the best word for it, but that's our before. After, what am I seeing? Well, now with my after, I don't actually know what the chemicals are anymore. And so I'm going to just kind of say solid and then the solution. And so after, well, what does that solid look like? Well, that solid to me looks like it's got some brownish green fuzzy stuff on it. So the solid has brown green fuzz on it. And then I'm going to say that the solution is blue and green, blue-green in color with that. And so now I can make a claim. Is this a chemical change or a physical change? And I'm going to say that this is a chemical change. And my reason being that, well, what did I see? And here, notice I'm just saying my colors. So now I can say there was a color change. My reader can tell, okay, if it went from orangish and clear to now brown, green, and blue-green, our reader can put those pieces together, but this is where we're going to explain it. So there was a color change. Which indicates a chemical change. And a new substance was produced. And again, we want to think back to what does it mean to be a chemical change? So if we go up here, a chemical change, a new substance is formed, physical change, nothing new is formed. It has the same chemical identity. So we're pulling that in to our reasoning here. All right. And this last one, here's a practice one for you to do. Feel free to reach out to your teacher. So the cooking of sugar into caramel, use the before and after. We did talk about what that one is up here. So you can use that to help guide you in writing a CER, and reach out to your teacher with any questions.